Got a question on TikTok asking about it was a tenant, I guess, that didn't pay their rent, and then they got a 30-day notice to vacate, and they were wondering why they might have gotten that notice. I might have the answer to that. Hi, my name is Rob Wells. I'm the Landlord Warrior on TikTok and YouTube. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to our videos. Now, from time to time, we do come into tenancies where some landlords have to serve a 30-day notice to vacate when they don't pay, when their tenants don't pay their rent. And I think probably the most common reason for that would be this landlord may be subject to CARES Act number 1. If we go back 5 years ago, we had the first federal CARES Act, which provided trillions of dollars of rental assistance to landlords. One of the terms in the CARES Act that was not repealed or sunset for whatever reason was the 30-day notice requirement for landlords whose properties had a federally backed mortgage or they participated in a federal subsidy program. The most common ones we see today would be the Housing Choice Voucher Program or the Section 8 program. Okay, because I get some landlords, they will ask me like, why are we giving the tenant, a 3-day notice to pay rent or vacate in 30 days? Okay, and it's because of CARES Act number 1. Okay, there was a requirement that if a tenant didn't pay their rent or defaulted on some type of monetary breach, like they didn't pay late fees or utilities, that type of deal, and they were either participating in a federal subsidy program. There's a laundry list of them, but the most common ones we run in our office are for Section 8, basically, or if you have a federally backed mortgage, your loan's owned by the government or owned by Fannie, Freddie, those entities, basically, you would have to give your tenants 30 calendar days to vacate, basically. So in many places, what the landlord will do, our office does, is we'll give you a 3-day notice to pay your rent under state law, but the notice will say that if you don't pay your rent, you have to vacate within 30 calendar days, because this is where state and federal law differ. Okay, the CARES Act just requires that you give 30 calendar days to vacate, where under California state law, the 3 days to pay your rent is defined as basically any day that's not a Saturday, Sunday, or judicial holiday. So it's really business days, basically. So your notice has had to be in either or. Now, there's some organizations like the California Apartment Association that give 30 business days, excluding weekends and holidays on their notices. The CARES Act just basically says just 30 days. Okay, and when that, in the old days, it would be calendar days, and California law was similar to that probably about 4 or 5 years ago. The 3-day period included weekends until they amended the law. I think that was in like 2019 or 20. Don't quote me on that, but that's what this tenant might have received, is one of those 30-day notices to vacate under the CARES Act. So not sure. It seemed that's probably the most logical thing I could think of, unless their lease required a 30-day notice to pay their rent, which I've seen some leases have stated that tenants have 30 days to fix their defaults in the payment of rent. Don't get me on that, because you could have a lease provision that requires you to provide longer notice time frames under the contract, and courts will enforce that, basically. So landlords, just a caveat to you, don't use leases that come online and you don't understand what your leases say. Okay, so that's the answer to that question here. Landlords, if you're facing a situation where you need to issue a notice for non-payment of rent to your tenant, you don't know what area you're in, or if you don't know what state law applies, that type of deal, feel free to reach out. We might be able to help out if you're in the Northern California area with that. Put your comments, questions down below. Until next time, folks, I'll talk to you then. Thanks.